Well, hello, darlings. Hello, and a blessed good morning. My goodness, the gossip is ripe. Everyone is all in a tithy after the results of Tuesday's elections. Now, this was not a major. This was not a major Tuesday. This wasn't like what's coming next year when we see major shifts in Congress. Do I think that Democrats are going to win? Yeah, I think the signs are really good. We're looking at a blue wave. I'm not surprised that a Democrat won in New York because New York tends to vote for Democrats in the race. Somebody had said, well, what about Giuliani? Yeah, Giuliani was a rare egg. And being a Republican in New York is not the same as being a Republican in Tennessee. I think we also have to, consider that as well. Um, but yeah, I think it just feels to me when you go into this energy that we are moving away from MAGA. I always tell people to think about what is sustainable. How does a civilization continue to survive unscathed for centuries? It has to have some kind of functioning infrastructure, right? It can't be a society that wages war on its own citizens. Eventually, it would collapse, right? It's not sustainable. So, in the case of MAGA, either they were going to fall or it wasn't a sustainable civil war. Civil wars come to an end, and America was and is on the verge of civil war. But I feel it's a civil war that will be diverted because I think it's something that the American people never had an easy time with. They always had, it was never a normal fit. But I am concerned about these ICE raids and this type of antisocial, excuse me, this antisocial personality disorder or sociopathy over the ICE raids. I'm surprised at how much is being done and how little the courts are doing to protect the average American citizen, to be honest with you. Okay, let's do it. Let's do some blitzes. Thanks for being here. If you could like, share, and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together collectively, we say, Amen. So the news has just come out that Nancy Pelosi is retiring. Oh my goodness. She has been such an integral part of Congress. And after her husband's attack, though, my God, I just don't know what I would do if I would want to just stay close to home. And I mean, it was so evil and so horrible what happened to her husband. Illegal alien, right? Guy coming in from Canada. But no one talks about that. How is that not an illegal alien coming in, right? All right, Nancy Pelosi. The end and death is the first card. So we have a Four of Pentacles. It can be in the grave, going nowhere, and the end. So it might suggest that, yes, this is really the end of the road for her. Sorry, I'm trying to get a better visual for you guys. Yeah, so an inverted Four of Pentacles coming, or excuse me, Four of Swords. Inverted Four of Swords coming into the seventh house, which is the first house in a Celtic cross. It could also indicate that she could be worried about death, or there could be an actual physical death. Maybe she's concerned about her husband, but this is quite ominous. We also have an inverted Tower card, as her opposition. So I think things were not the same after the attack on her husband. It just feels that death came to their door when he was beaten with a hammer. And he was never the same after that. His brain, he was permanently damaged by that attack. And you get the feeling when you go into this energy, my God, what a horrible thing to do to someone's husband. Regardless of what your political opinions are. So this feels like, talk about being stoic. I just don't know how I would cope. I would be hysterical if something like that happened to my partner. But so I think this is a desire to flee Washington. Look at that. Her final outcome is the swords, the Seven of Swords, a desire to flee like a thief. Also, she wants to get out of there before any major concessions. Like, I'm glad I'm going to be missing that boat. I don't know what that's about. Things are moving very quickly. She has a love offering. So there's going to be some kind of a ceremony or something like that, possibly headed by Joaquin Jeffries and the rest of the House, to do praises and some kind of a special ceremony for Nancy Pelosi, because you have this kind of Ace of Cups coming in for her into her future. And that would be quite auspicious. It would indicate that there'll be a nice send-off for her, just like there was for Biden. And she'll be writing her biography. She's going home to write, which is what we would expect, that now is the time for her to complete her autobiography, everything, her life in DC. And that's what we have with this, with the Eight of Pentacles as her final outcome, sitting down as the master at her. And she'll do her best to finish up her seat and finish up her work and her obligations to all of her charities and all the organizations that she supports and funded. She'll do everything in her power to make sure that that's okay before she leaves with that Knight, Eight of Pentacles. All right, interesting. Well, we wish her well. I'm so sorry about what happened to her husband. That was terrible. And for whatever reason, that never should have happened. Never should have happened. Okay, so the government shutdown. I just want to do the cards today for the government shutdown. It looks like the FAA, is that what it's called, is now shutting down flights. I hope I'll be able to get to Colombia. I hope this whole thing will be over by the 19th when I fly to Colombia. If not, I'm going to have to cancel that flight. But let's take a look at just the energy on the government shutdown. I'm kind of curious. It's interesting. Every time I go into the energy of the government shutdown, I always feel like Johnson is keeping that wave, that tsunami, from the doors closed, and eventually that blue wave is going to just come crashing, and there's really not a lot that Johnson can do to stop it. Not only that, but Johnson's eventually going to have to pick sides. It's either Trump. Look, he cannot. Everyone is turning their back on Trump because Trump is terrible for down ballot races, right? That's what we've learned. So let's take a look at Johnson, and look at that. We have an Ace of Cups. This tells me that Johnson could be trying to make a deal with Democrats. I will let you come back if you promise not to do this. We're not going to promise you anything. Open the damn door. Ace of Cups. Smooth. Oh, we'll be good. Let the vampire out of the cage, right? Like, let the rabid dog out. It's not going to work. But Ace of Cups does a goodwill gesture. So expect Johnson to offer some kind of goodwill gesture, and this desire for smoother waters to lay ahead, and then a judgment. It's interesting that Trump is really starting to lose his mind, and he's had this kind of advanced imagery And now you have even Marjorie Taylor Greene turning on him. It's like, oh my freaking God, this is so bad. Over the issue of the ethics, it becomes a constitutional crisis where even the courts could come in and order something that requires them to return back. You can't just shut the government down indefinitely. There's a constitutional crisis that comes in, and also emergencies. So if you had emergencies, how much funding would happen? For example, if you had a hurricane or something like that hit, which just hit in Jamaica, it was quite devastating. Knight of Swords could indicate like a major event or a violent event. This is the Constitution, always the Hierophant, which moves into seventh position, and the Ace of Cups. Eventually, the Constitution will win, and they will have to return back to chambers. And the fact that you have smoother waters and Three of Pentacles would indicate the passing of bills. Three of Wands, which would be over the horizon, importing and exporting, internationally trying to heal wounds. But there's a Knight of Swords. So if they can't approve money on anything, including what's going on in the world, it puts us in a very vulnerable situation, the United States, if we are attacked or something like that. But those cards tell me that Johnson is going to have to make a deal. I'm just curious about Trump's cards and how the Republican Party feels about him right now. Do they realize that he might not be all there? It's interesting, you go into the cards and they say he has coronary artery disease and he has mental health issues or cognitive decline. But the cards seem to be saying, with that Seven of Cups that always comes in, that his main issue is mental decline, that he simply he's not able to fulfill his role as the president. And that's ultimately why he has to leave. That's a Seven of Cups. It's to be in the clouds. It's a good card to use if you're trying to describe dementia, for example. Two of Swords. There's a stubbornness like a child. Have you ever tried to pick up a child when a child doesn't want to be picked up? That's the energy you get with Donald Trump. He doesn't want to be picked up. He doesn't want to be moved. He doesn't want to. I can shut this country down if I want to. There's this a stubbornness and a refusal to budge. This happened the last time he got all powerful and shut the government down. It was the power of being able to do this. So Two of Swords is a rigid place to be in. It's a refusal. It's the heavy load. I take on the heavy load of the swords because I hear no evil, see no evil, la, 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 I can't hear you, right? That's a Two of Swords position, and that's kind of where Trump is. So I don't see Trump as movable. So if Trump is not movable, then they are going to have to override him. There's only one way out of this nightmare, and that is that they are going to have to break with Trump. The opposition, new jobs, new opportunities. The country would be in great shape. It would be up and running if Donald Trump would get out of the way. That's basically what the cards are saying. We've got new jobs. We got new Christmas opportunities. We got new technology. We got new government. Oh, that's right. We've got Trump in the way. It's kind of like this country would recover on its own if you would just get out of the way, Mr. Trump. Right? So the opposition, Page of Pentacles, is jobs, new opportunities. It's associated with Archangel Gabriel, who's closest to the earth, caregiver of messages, coin, jobs, ideas. And the final outcome is grief for Donald Trump. So I'm going to go ahead and predict that his popularity continues to decline. But furthermore, he becomes not just a threat to the future of the GOP being reelected, but a threat to the entire country. And it's that Two of Swords, I'm telling you, he is just sitting in the middle of Walmart, refusing to do anything, barking orders, and eventually they're going to have to break with him. They have no choice. They can't continue. He's Eventually, they're going to have to stand up to this guy. You know, this is grief and stress with Trump. And, you know, the interesting thing is that a child cannot admit that they're wrong. They will just sit and go, no, I don't, no, you can't make me, no. So that's kind of the energy you have here with this guy, you know, that, and King of Wands, my space, boom, boom, my space, I will fight my space. This is a terrible place to be at. Holding up the coin, Four of Swords, to be held up, to be in a deep state of rest comes the coin. Hopes and fears, the coin, and walking away. Well, screw you. I didn't want that candy anyway. You're not going to buy it for me, right? Nine of Swords is deep stress card. It has to do with anxiety, sometimes at night. Pains in the neck, shoulder, and head. Sexual frustration. And grief. I don't think that Trump's doing too well. And I really think that Mike Johnson is going to have to make a decision. Mike Johnson is going to have to throw this guy to the curb because he is in a terrible situation. And I'll tell you, if they get rid of Mike Johnson so that somebody will open up this government. I mean, they could threaten to get rid of you. Either open this damn government or we're getting rid of you. It could be a situation like that. I'm feeling that they could threaten him. Nope, no, I'll get back to you later. This is his way of dealing with things. Open the goddamn government. Yeah, right. We'll talk later. That's how you feel when you go into this energy with Johnson. He's the guy that wants to put on the persona that everything is okay and we'll do lunch when, as a delay tactic, because he honestly this guy doesn't have a clue what the hell he's going to do or where we're headed. I'm telling you, the courts are coming in. There's something about the courts coming in as if to say that this shutdown is not legal. There it is again. Nine of Swords moving into final outcome also for Johnson. What the hell is wrong with you? Just open the damn Congress. Look, just like Trump, Two of Swords in the 7th house. There's the courts and the Constitution as his opposition. What, are you going to go down in sync with this guy? What do they have on him? Final hopes and fears to win, and the final outcome is the Truth of Archangel stands as the outcome. Is this guy finished? Yes. This could destroy Mike Johnson's career. Geez, Three of Swords is his outcome with a Nine of Swords, and then Archangel Michael, the spies card, right? The spy is always trying to get to the truth, right? Yeah, it's not looking good for Johnson, you guys. Woohoo! Not good at all. Now, many of you were upset that I had said that Mamdani was going to be attacked. I did a meditation last night. I am a Democratic Socialist personally. So it's not that I'm opposed to having a Democratic Socialist be the mayor of New York, because I tend to be pretty left to center. No, I just think that he is even if he was not a controversial, let's assume he's not a controversial figure. It just felt to me like there was so much bureaucracy in New York that sweeping changes would be extremely difficult. Also, there's some big money in New York. And again, I'm not even talking controversy. I'm just talking about trying to get anything done in New York. And somebody had said, yeah, the first bad snowstorm, it's going to be over for him. And that's really true. I mean, I used to live in New York, and New Yorkers, you know, the first time there's a garbage strike, you're finished as the mayor, right? It's like, so he made big promises. And if you know how New York operates, like I said, I used to live in Manhattan. kind of changes he promised, we can't do that, not overnight. It would take years and it would be so controversial. And so that kind of, we can do anything if our minds are, if we have enough, if we're inspired enough, right? That's that kind of young belief in that good is going to happen. I think that's great, but he's going to meet with resistance. But let's look at Mamdani again. Two of Swords, same stubborn card. Oh, all these three boys, they know what they know. Fear that he is going to lose the voters. Five of Pentacles can be a feeling of being abandoned or locked out of the church, or he may feel like the people who didn't vote for him are really hard on him. Like, give me a chance, man. I haven't even gotten the seat warm yet. He's already being met by that Five of Pentacles. You're a Nazi, you're a horrible person, we don't want you. You know, like he's dealing with all of this, but I haven't even started yet. And also Two of Swords, that rigidity. I'm just going to do it my way with this combination of Five of Pentacles in his house of opposition. Talk to the hand. There's a large percentage of New Yorkers that simply will never accept him as their mayor. So that's the other thing you have to take into consideration, that this was one of the most contentious races. And for New York, that's saying a lot. I mean, they've had people get killed, you know, like hopes and fears. He grieves what he has lost. I'm never going to be able to convince those people. So I have to do to the best of my ability. I have to be the best mayor. I have to be honest with people and fight the good fight. You know, he's got that Two of Swords on him. So he's not going to let it get to him. He's not going to listen to anything. He's just going to do it his way. But there is that grief there with the Five of Cups. And then here comes the Master's card. That's good for him. That's an Eight of Pentacles. He's crowding out the negative. We're not going to listen to you. I can't focus on that. If you're not going to give me a chance, you're not going to give me a chance. I have to just focus on my work. And so that is how he starts off and that is actually what I would advise for him, is to just get to the books, and this guy can work it. This guy must be a good student because he's sitting there at that Eight of Pentacles. He wants access to everything because he wants to see how money is being managed, how resources are being managed. He has strong leadership ability and a sense of fairness that puts him in a position of power as the emperor. So that's optimistic. His opposition is the money. If he cannot get large donors or large companies to financially back or support changes in New York, the big money is in his house of opposition, the Ace of Pentacles. It stands against him. So again, this could be a sign that the old money, the Astors and the various different wealthy aristocrats that own Manhattan, they may shun Mamdani for various reasons, right? So you have this kind of opposition is the big money. We're not going to be inviting him to the cocktail party. That there's a little bit of that. The wealthy Astors, the wealthy, Carnegie Mellon, that kind of energy, the haughty-taughty. It's been removed from, you don't like us, well, we don't like you. There's a little bit of that with the Five of Pentacles and the Ace of Pentacles. Hopes and fears for Mamdani, the High Priestess. The hidden will be revealed. The hidden will be revealed. That which is hidden will be revealed. And the final outcome for him is he's really going to try to the best of his ability to be fair as a mayor. But there is a shutting out you get here. And that's basically what I see. Like I said, I was concerned when I went into the remote. There seems to be some controversy that's coming out in the future regarding campaign financing that did come up in the remote. We'll have to see how that plays itself out. All right, that's all I have for you. The other thing I would want to say in closing is that the energy feels to me like we are slowly evolving towards democratic socialism and away from just pure capitalism. Again, because when you look at this energy, Dog eat dog is not what we learn from human evolution. We learn about cooperation from human evolution. And we also learn from human evolution that the most vulnerable amongst us were cared for. When we look at archaeological sites, we'll see that extremely old people who had no eyesight and no teeth were still alive, you know, in these caves being cared for 40, 50,000 years ago, right? So what do we learn from that? We learn that human beings know how to love and care for one another and care for the most vulnerable. That cooperation is how we make life more bearable. We always want to ask yourself, well, what motivates you in life? What is the meaning of life? Certainly it's not dog eat dog. It's not to live in a world where we don't care about one another, where the life of another human being is viewed as less than ours. We know what is not sustainable. We know that if we live in a society where some people are less equal than others, the entire society suffers. That human beings are much more connected than we realize. And if somebody in the world is suffering, for whatever human tragedy it is, particularly if it's inside of our own community, we will feel the reverberating effects of that. And so this is what we learn from the most functional societies. When you look at Norway, when you look at Sweden, when you look at Denmark, when you look at Iceland, you learn that caring for your most vulnerable and knowing that your most vulnerable are going to be cared for is how you create a happy society. So I was asked if I could take a look quickly at that. So I'll do one more quick on the future of democratic socialism in America, because it seems to be that that's what the people want. It seems that that's the direction that people are moving in, and that this capitalism that took hold, particularly during Ronald Reagan's reign, is when we really got into this greed, and that capitalism is somehow American, right? It's somehow capitalism built this country. No, innovation built this country. But this war on democratic socialism is really just manufactured, right? You think of somebody like Steinbeck, he was very patriotic, right? So a lot of people that promoted democratic socialism were extremely and are extremely patriotic people. But the future of democratic socialism in America is that the future of America will be democratic socialism. And what we're seeing is the growing pains. It doesn't feel that way now. It feels like we've got these people in positions of power that have all this money, but it will collapse in on itself. You can't continue to make money if the people have no money to buy your goods and services. The only thing that's sustainable is that you create a society that cares for its citizens. If you create a society that doesn't care for its citizens, the society will collapse. So we will return to center, and we will return to these ideas of caring for the needy. The opposition is a lack of work. So the big issue is the phasing out of jobs, or the phasing out of jobs that had dignity was the beginning of the end for the United States, because they closed down the factories in Michigan and in the coal mines in Virginia. And so what happens is that there's just a collapse of the worker. If you don't have the right contacts, if you didn't go to the right school, are you going to have a job, or are you going to have to rely on yourself to start your own business? But loss of the work or a loss of the heavy load stands in the opposition. And whether or not the economy can survive. And we will leave the old ways behind. There's something really wonderful about a piece of cloth, a shoe, wearing shoes that were handmade by a cobbler. Artificial intelligence and these new fast ways of making clothes and everything else, that's really cool. But there's also something really cool about human-made products and going back to a simpler time and the novelty of sewing and making our own things, or the novelty of natural fabrics. You can see here also the Six of Wands moving in with the Nine of Cups tells me that within 6 months, we're probably going to be looking towards Democrats somehow being able to take control of the House. And I don't know if that's because there's going to be special elections or if something else is going to happen. But we get our wish within 6 months. And if you're asking about democratic socialism, I'm telling you, it's on the rise with these cards. And despite the opposition, it is ultimately what the people want. And the final outcome is the wealth of the nation. So you have the Empress, which is great wealth. I would encourage with these types of cards that everybody move towards working for themselves part-time. You know, whether it's making handmade clothing or handmade soap or something. But it looks to me, when you go into this energy, that there is a preservation of the old ways, a preservation of making, that humans are making their own furniture. The crafts, the days of craftsmanship shift, the days of humans making things for themselves. You know, it's interesting. I just made something like 5 pounds of soap. I have like 3 or 4 different types of soap. Should last me a couple of years. I make them before the holidays and I give them out to people for Hanukkah, Christmas, that sort of thing. All right, you guys, I want to thank you all for listening to this YouTube video. Be sure and share, like, and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Don't worry, you can see from the cards, we are moving in a positive direction. I think Trump is out. Like I've said before, I didn't say he would die. Please don't misunderstand my words, but I think that his physical health is on decline, and I don't think that he will be able to complete his presidency. I think that he will be abandoned by his constituents and by the Republican Party, which we're seeing, which is what I said. And I think that he could be out as early as December for medical reasons. So I want to be very clear what I said. If it lingers past December, I would be surprised because it's already really bad. He's wandering the halls lost, doesn't know where he's at when he's in Japan. He's mumbling about things that make no sense. He doesn't seem to know where he's at or what country is at war with which country. So I can't imagine, given how bad Trump's mental health is, that he would be doing better in 2 months, right? All right. I want to thank you again. Be sure and share, like, subscribe. If you're trying to get in for a reading, you can find the information below. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. We'll see you next time, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.